Okay, Ron, we're back with another week of Ask Ron. First question is from Alek from New Jersey. Ron, what is your mindset when you are going into a deal that could be lease option purchase or subject to? What is important to you in those transactions?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to know what the deal is before I leave my desk, not before I get to the house. And I very seldom do a subject to. If I buy the house, I'll buy it with owner financing. Lease option doesn't come out of my mouth. I don't want to lease it. I want to own it, Alex. I want to own full control, and I want the depreciation. I can't get either with a lease. Lease is only a technique that is a fail-safe if you can't buy it with owner financing. So I'm going to go for owner financing, and what I'm thinking about is I want to make sure that I'm buying it somewhat below market, and I'm going to be asking myself, what kind of a down payment do I think I can get putting a tenant buyer in it? And that's going to help guide me as to how much I'm willing to give the seller, if any. And in New Jersey, you got to know what your closing costs are, because somebody's got to pay them babies, and they're not cheap there. So my goal is to get into the property, turn into a golden goose, get more back than I put in it, get paid every single month that goes by, and have the debt go down every single month, the value go up preferably, and create a long-term deal that's going to pay me for years and years and years. I don't buy subject to unless it's a probate and the loan is in the parent's name, or unless the seller just could care less anymore. For example, I know they're never going to apply for another loan, because if I buy it subject to, that's going to kill their debt ratio. They don't have any income to wash out their debt. And of course, if I buy it subject to and I don't make the payments, they have no way to get the property back. So if they don't care, I don't care. I'll buy it subject to. But frankly, if I'll never see a choice between subject to and doing a lease option, I'm always going to buy. I want to take title to the property.
Okay, Laura from Montana asks, how do we make payments to the seller? The bank won't accept payments from other people.
That's not true, Laura. If they don't, I want 40 years of mine returned to me, please. Banks will absolutely accept a payment from anybody that sends the payment. However, you better make sure the loan number is on the lower left-hand corner of that check so they know where to apply it. And I put the seller's name there as well. Seller's name and loan number right on that check. And then they'll know where to apply it. And if you don't put that on that check, it'll go into lost payment heaven, never to be heard from again. Then the seller will start complaining that that the payment was late and wasn't made and all of that. So when you set this thing up, it would behoove you to make that first payment, put that loan number on it. And then if you're worried about it, have the seller call the bank and to confirm that they received the payment, and then they'll let you know. So that's good, because the seller now knows that you're there to try to protect their interest, and they probably would appreciate you doing that once you tell them why you're doing it.
Okay, Heather says, how much does it cost for Pat Live support while running your business?
Pat Live costs $199 a month. That gets you 250 minutes of them answering the phone for you, and it's 95 cents a minute thereafter, last time I looked.
Charles from Texas says, does the house have to be free and clear to work out a lease option deal in Texas?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only difference between Texas and the other state is that they can't have more than a 6-month option in Texas. They have to be notified before that 6 months. And that's why you want to close with a real estate attorney that understands these things. I'm telling you, I would use Scott Horn out of Dallas. He said he'd charge $750. And he understands this like the back of his hand. And he's actually a real estate investor as well as a real estate attorney. You've got to get an attorney to help you do lease options in Texas. But you can keep the non-refundable deposit as long as the option don't go over 6 months. But that doesn't mean you have to kick them out. You can leave them in the house paying rent as long as you want to. And any deal you make with them later about crediting some of their deposit is between you and the tenant buyer.
Michael asks, can you do this business with multifamily properties as well?
Well, Michael, a whole lot of people are, and absolutely. In fact, you're going to buy, depends on what do you mean by multi. If I'm buying a fourplex, it ain't no different if I'm buying a house, same thing. If I'm buying a 100-unit apartment complex, then obviously the whole due diligence is going to be different, and the financing is going to be different, and you're going to buy it in you're gonna form an LLC just for that property. But yeah, you buy them almost exactly like you do single family houses. But the big stuff's going to require a whole different due diligence. See, I'll see you at the commercial property boot camp coming up.
Lynn says, in the situation of a tenant buyer, who pays taxes and home insurance?
My tenant buyer is paying me rent, Lynn. I'm paying the taxes and the home insurance because I'm collecting enough money from my tenant buyer to cover the escrow, the payment underneath. The payment underneath includes an escrow account most of the time, which covers taxes and insurance. So you're just a pass-through. Taxes and insurance, well, they're technically coming out of your pocket, but in reality, the tenant is actually paying them, but it's called rent, all right? Tenants don't make mortgage payments. They pay rent. Tenants don't pay taxes and insurance. Owners pay that. And so you're paying it, but the tenant's giving you the money to pay it with. I hope that made sense.
Tara in Illinois says, when we buy subject to, I gather we lose tax benefits of mortgage interest because the 1098 would go to the seller since the mortgage remains in their name.
Not true. If you're making the payment, you get the tax benefits. I don't care whose name the house is in. If you're writing the check, you get to write off the interest.
Alex from Florida, in a lease option agreement with my seller, part of the seller's acknowledgement, item 19, approval of buyer, the accepting of the tenant buyer is a joint decision with, and I don't have the rest of it. I'm sorry, that looks like that question got cut off.
Well, I haven't looked at that lately, but frankly, if I don't remember reading that in there. If it says in there that approving a tenant buyer is a joint decision, I'd strike that out if I were you, because I don't need the seller telling me who I can put in their house. I don't remember that being in there, but I could be wrong. Now you're going to make me go home and read it. Okay.
All right. This is another question from Alex from Florida. How much information do you disclose to the seller about the tenant buyer?
None. None of their business. I don't even talk about what I'm going to do with the house. I'm not going to any seminar about how I'm going to lease option the house and get a good tenant buyer in there and blah, 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 blah. Shut the hell up. You don't need to go there. If the seller asks you, what are you going to do with the house? Well, I'm going to rent it a while until we can get it cashed out. End of conversation. No seminars, Alex. Shut up.
Okay, Robert says, hi, Ron. I just finished watching you and Whitney on your webinar in Santa Clara County.
Mm-hmm.
The median San Francisco detached home is 1.5 million.
Okay. If you live in the city and the median price is 1.5 million, you can count that as a blessing. That means you are forced to deal in the higher priced properties, which are going to make you way more money than the lower priced properties. I mean, one deal should get you a 6-figure check in San Francisco. And, you know, that you see your market is already conditioned that the houses cost a lot more. That's good for you. Right. So, you know, you try to sell a $1.5 million house in Biloxi, you won't get very far, but that's not where you're at. It's two totally different markets. So you just adapt to the market.
All right. A third question here. Do you get title insurance?
I get title insurance if I'm paying cash. I get a title search if I'm doing it on terms, because I don't have much invested in a terms deal. So I'm not going to pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to buy a title policy that only insures a small amount of money. Saved a lot of money over the years, but I'm most certainly going to get one if I'm paying cash.
Okay, that's all our questions from the.
All right. Okay, guys. We're sitting here. We just got through taping a brand new course called 32 Fatal Mistakes Real Estate Investors Make. So keep on the lookout for that. And I spent 2 days doing it. So there's a lot of stuff in it. I'll see you next week. Go buy some houses.